Shulchan Aruch, Orach Chaim, Hilchot Birkot HaShachar, Siman Memvav, and we are up to Seif Dalet. Maran writes, Sarich levarech bechol yom shlo asani obed kochavim, shlo asani aved, shlo asani isha. You have to make 3 brachot every morning of essentially thanking HaKadosh Baruch Hu for being a Yid, for being a Jew, but you don't just say it, Baruch Sha'asani Yisrael. You don't say it like that. You divide it to step-by-step thanks for being chayav b'mitzvot. So the way we say it is, Shelo asani obed kochavim, that I'm not an obed kochavim, I'm not an idol worshiper. Shelo asani eved, that I'm not a slave, because again, a slave is not his own master. He cannot do what he wants. He can't do the mitzvot if he would even want to do them. So therefore, thinking that we have authority over ourselves, that is a certain level of thanks as well for being able to do the mitzvot. We know an Eved Kanani is chayav mitzvot like a woman. Only mitzvot of don't do's, the negative commandments, and those positive commandments that are not time-bound. Because the time-bound ones, he can't really be obligated when he's obligated first to his master, and he has to do certain things that the Eved has to do. So therefore, he is absolved from that, an Eved Kenani. And also then he says, Shelo asani isha. Shelo asani isha is similar to that as well, because again, the level of the mitzvot that a man has is a higher level than what a woman is obligated to. And again, it's for a good reason, because a woman has to make a house, has to give birth and have children, and has to be dedicated to upbringing of a family and children. And that's not a simple task. It is the focus of her life. If it wasn't because of her, there would be no family. There would be no, imagine a woman that wants to go finish Shas. We had in Baltimore, we had a woman, she was already older at the time. The youngest kid was already in school and so on. Every morning, this is before, right after it was 6:30 minyan, whatever it was, she came to the Daf Yomi, and the Maggid Shir of the Daf Yomi was one of the most famous Rabbanim in Baltimore. He told me, he said, this woman is the only one that really knows the Gemara, not just the Gemara that we're doing right now. She knows the Gemara that we did last year too, and you could speak to her like in learning in the Ramban, not the Ramban on Chumash, in Ramban on Dina de Garmi, the most complicated pieces of Ramban. So this is a very intellectual, capable woman. This is not none of the other guys in the Daf Yomi Shir could even talk to her in learning. That's how better she is. But again, you oftentimes have people who have the luxury of learning like that, but not every woman has the luxury of being able to learn in that way. They're dedicated to making a home, to being a mother to the children, and being an anchor to Jewish life. So therefore, they're absolved from that. So even though that it's not a matter of which one is better, but it's a matter of opportunity to do more mitzvot, and that is something that we thank for as well. So now the Mishna Berurah says something very interesting. You have to be very careful not to say one bracha sha'asani Yisrael, Baruch Hashem that I'm a Jew. Because if you say that, according to many poskim, then you are not allowed to say the next 2 brachot anymore. Shelo asani aved, you cannot say. Ki yesh omrim, that those who say shebazeh lo yuchal levarech shuv shelo asani aved v'lo asani isha. Because there, according to many, you can no longer say the bracha of shelo asani aved. That's for sure. But the Bach says that already on the tour. And Shelo asani isha as well. Now, it's very interesting. The Ben Ish Chai, in Odius of Chai, Parashat Vayeshev, he writes the reason that this happened, the Mishna Berurah calls it the shibush b'defus. So al yedei shibush hadfus, they messed up the prints. Ben Ish Chai says it's not a mess up. They did it b'davka like that. The matpisim, the print houses, they did this b'davka because of not a censor, but because they were afraid of the goyim. You say Shelo asani goy, right? Imagine you go to an Arab in Baghdad, and you say, Baruch Hashem, I'm not an Arab. Arel Goy like you, right? The next thing you know, he takes the machete out, and who knows, but the biggest piece is going to be your ear, right? So see, you Jews make a bracha on this. So they were afraid. So they say, I'm just thinking that I'm a Jew, that's all. So the Nishchai writes, the B'davka did this, but they didn't realize that this actually has a halachic ramification. It's not so pashut to just, again, we don't realize how much prosecutions they had to go through. It's not the persecution that they had to go through, and the Sinat Israel that they had to go through was unbelievable. You made one wrong move or comment, and they would, they would say, I still remember I had a classmate that one time didn't like the fact that I was the only one that got a whatever good grade, whatever it was in the class, and he threatened me. He said, you either sit and learn with me, and I'll get a good grade, or I'm just gonna go and say you cursed Khomeini or some other imam, and I'm gonna get you into trouble. And he could have actually done that, because they would believe him. They would not believe me, right? So that's the level of, and this is in a good time. What happened? We'll discuss what happened afterwards. So says the Mishna Berurah, Oved Kochavim, how about if you did the order reverse? You said, Shelo asani isha, Shelo asani aved, Shelo asani goy. Can you do it like that? Can you do the reverse order? Right? Yesh omrim the shuv lo yuchal levarech shelo asani akum. If you said already Shelo asani isha, there are those poskim who hold, the Tivchaim, the Chayei Adam, Magen Avraham, they hold that if you already said it is bichlal matayim maneh. If you say Baruch Hashem, you gave me $200, right? Then you say Baruch Hashem, you gave me $100. You already said 200. You have 200. You have 102, right? That's included already. If you say Baruch Hashem that I'm not just a Jewish woman, but I'm a Jewish man, then you gotta thank Hashem for being Jewish, for not serving idols. You already said it. It's included in the first bracha you said. So this is Magen Avraham. The order of these brachot are very much specific. You thank the smaller thing first, then the bigger thing, and that's what the Magen Avraham says. Yes, because you're thanking HaKadosh Baruch Hu for being. It's not talking about a biological woman versus a biological man. The thank lies in being chayav b'mitzvot. I have more obligation to the mitzvot. Again, this is so. Sometimes we think so not like this. We say, Baruch Hashem, I became patur from this mitzvah. Baruch shepetarani mu'ushos. Baruch, have to do the mitzvah, right? Rabbi Yosef was a Sagi Nahor. He's one of the two famous blind people in Shas. Is Rabbi Yosef. Now the story of Rabbi Yosef is in a way that him and Rav Sheshat, the Talmidim of Rav, and Rav had Asara Mili the Chasidut of Rav. The Gemara says Rav had 10 different pious traits that he had, and when he passed away, his students were so depressed and so broken that he's no longer. So each one of them tried to accept something upon themselves, something of Hasidut that Rav used to do. So one of the things that Rav used to do was he never looked over his 4 amot. He was so in control of his eyesight not to see things that he did not want to see. And Rav Sheshat and Rav Yosef accepted to do that chumrah, but the problem was they soon realized they can't do it. And they daven that they should become blind. That's okay, a tremendous thing. If you could please empty Ezrat Hashem's for a moment. Rabotai, please keep this in mind throughout Chodesh Elul. Nobody should be sitting there in any of the minyanim. It's made for women. So the Rav Sheshat, became blind. Rabbi Yosef became blind. Rabbi Yosef used to say, whoever tells me that a suma is patur from mitzvot, I'll make a seudah. Why? Because he felt in the beginning that if I'm patur and I'm still doing the mitzvah, geschmack, right? And I'm being such a tzaddik, I'm being such a pious individual that I'm doing the mitzvah, even though that I'm not obligated to do the mitzvah. Then he said, I learned halacha that gadol ha-mitzuveh yoter mi she'eno mesuveh ve'oseh. A person that's obligated to do is greater mitzvah than a person that's not obligated. So then I changed. I said, whoever tells me a blind person is obligated to do the mitzvah, I make a seudah. Right? So that's the truth. And again, we celebrate being chayav to do more mitzvot. And that's the thing of Shelo Asani Isha. Therefore, says the Magen Avraham, if you already said Shelo Asani Isha, then you can no longer say Shelo Asani Avid and perhaps Shelo Asani Goy. So that's something important to keep in mind, that the order of these brachot are important. Some people say it by heart, and the order sometimes you get mixed up. Did I say this? Did I not say it? And you say it the other way around. That's something that is safek brachot la'akel. A person has to be mindful of that. B'ezrat Hashem will continue this in the days to come. Chazak u'baruch.